right, so we're moving along here on the Nova 65. So this car has got moved up to the front of the line. A couple things have happened. So a friend of mine is interested in the car. And then on top of that, his little brother decided to call it out and challenge it to a race. We're trying to finish this car because we're going on this whole road trip thing. We're trying to coordinate to dropping this off at my friend and blowing the doors off of his brother at the same time. So this whole video now from here on out is gonna be pretty condensed down, compact on the detail and everything on the car. So it's gonna be a little quicker moving along. So in this video here alone is gonna be a lot happening. The car's gonna really come apart and it's gonna go together rather quickly. Got the engine, it's in it. It's more than mocked up. Got the engine mounts welded in it. The transmission is bolted in the cross member. So the engine is in position and where it's gonna be. I moved it back as far as possible. Get the HEI closest to the firewall, but still enough room to move the distributor. It's not hitting, nothing's. If you wanted to put a tall set of valve covers on it, you'd probably have a problem with the master cylinder. With the short ones, we're dialed, we're good to go. So I got the power rack mocked up here. The mounts still need to be fully welded. They're almost all the way done, but I need to get the engine out of the way before I can finish them. And then we got the header on the passenger side done. It's all V-band, it's hard to see, but you got the V-band collector down there. And then it goes to reducer. The reducer needs to be trimmed and then it's gonna go to a 90 and then the exhaust will go back. But I wound up taking the column out of the car because they welded a joint to the column here and I tried to cut it off and it wasn't happening. This column is all messed up and plus it used to be 3 on the tree, so I'm getting a new column is the more of the story. So now I need to get a column and then I need to finish. I'm going to reuse the steering wheel even though it's a little rough, but it's the original. So I'm going to put the steering wheel back on and I'm going to try to get the center horn button. This tranny I'm going to get rebuilt. I'm going to rebuild it. And then the rack that we showed, this was out of the other Nova that it blew the seal out. So the rack has to get rebuilt again. So once the engine comes out, I'll take care of that. I got the master cylinder painted and put on. Once I get a little more farther along, then I'll deal with the brake lines, but it's just sitting on there. These are the tires we're gonna run on the front. We got a new set of rallies, reproductions. So these are 15.5s, and we got some BFGs. We got some 155 80 15s on the front. These are actually a Volkswagen tire. That's what they're manufactured for. Sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. I just noticed somebody put silicone in here that needs to be cleaned out and the right stuff applied. So moving down the car, we got the passenger door sanded down and cleaned up. We rattle canned a coat of semi-gloss black on it. We did overspray a little bit, but we're just gonna clean up with a rag and brake cleaner and clean it up as we go. So when we sanded it, it looked like it was like a little snow party in here. Way too much Bondo on this car. And I think his theory was, I think I might have mentioned it before, that he was trying to go down and just make it all even and sand. I don't know what the deal was. Way too much Bondo on here. But you could see from the pile that was on the ground that we took a lot of Bondo off. So we left the door on when we painted it, but I think we're gonna take it off so we can finish the jams and make it easier to go around here because we took the driver's door off because we're replacing those door hinges were in bad shape. They're all worn out. So now we're moving on to the inside of the car. So the seat is bolted back in. I wanted to check fitment because we got the tunnel done and the passenger floor is done thick. So I tried to raise the tunnel, make it a little bit wider just to give the transmission a little bit more room and easier access if you ever had to change it. But I wound up going a little bit high at the seat here. So the only good thing is these Novas are so small. So right now the seat is all the way back, but it was hitting, the seat frame was hitting the tunnel here. So I had to modify it, I guess you could say. I beat it down with a hammer, which I didn't want to because I liked it as nice and radius. We have a new carpet kit and when we put the carpet in here, it's gonna be too thick again. So I'll be taking the seat back out to deal with that. We have a new glove box because the other one was disgusting. You see I got the new hinges sitting over there on the floor. We got the driver's door off. It's over there. We got it cleaned up in the spray booth, I like to say. And then this was a manual car, so I'm gonna take the clutch pedal out. So I'm gonna be taking, because I'm doing the rear floor pan, I'm taking the whole interior out. This rear seat, I don't even think it's in there all the way. Yeah, it's just sitting there. But those speakers there, I'm gonna be adding a stereo to this. So the speakers will be going in the Packers tray. I'm not going to be removing this factory radio though. This is gonna be the way it is. I'm not cutting the dash. In my opinion, this dash is what makes this car trick. So originally I was gonna use this power switch to turn on a radio I was gonna put under the seat. I was gonna put a disc changer Bluetooth radio under the seat and have the cord come out, you plug into your phone. Now I think I'm gonna put it in the glove box so it'll sit. So let's go back in here. I'll have the new radio disc changer, Bluetooth in the glove box. So you can just turn this on, which will turn this on, and then you can link it with your phone. So you don't have to have the glove box door open is what I think I'm gonna do now. So yeah, I have a new glove box, but I'm probably gonna cut a hole in it because the radio is going to poke through it, be sitting in here. Here's the driver's door we have in our spray booth, you can call it. This thing had a lot of Bondo on this side and on this side. I think we got it, like I said, I think this thing needed 2 doors, but for the most part, I think we got it pretty cherry. It's pretty runnable for sure. So I just got some paint on it last night, just get the jams. And then I just wanted to get a coat on here. I'm gonna go over and try to smooth it out. It's got some pretty good scratches in it still. We're not painters. We're not gonna prime it and fill it and deal with scratches. So we're gonna take this handle off. We're gonna go over the whole door with like a finer emery cloth, sandpaper. We'll go over the whole door again. None of the upper frame was painted. And then we'll do the same thing on the wing window. We're just gonna mask it off. I'm not worried about the weather stripping because all of it needs to be replaced. I am gonna put a new door weather stripping in it. Another reason why I wanted to paint this with the hinges off is normally if you ever replace the hinges, it's bare metal behind it. So at least now I got it cleaned up. Now I have paint on there, so now it's protected. The metal is protected, so these doors are on there for a while. We're not gonna start having rust or anything happen behind the hinge. And here we've been working on the passenger quarter panel. Got it pretty decent. A lot of the Bondo off of it for sure. And some of these holes for the emblem was covered up. So we poked these 2 holes back out. But this one wasn't covered. So these ones they filled with Bondo. So we had to poke the Bondo back out. We got sanded pretty good. The high spots, we tried to knock them down. You know, we try to get the body work decent, but you know, like I said, we're not body people. But this quarter panel is definitely worse than the other side. And we almost have this one ready that we're gonna paint this one next because we want to put all the emblems and everything back on the car. Here you can see we got some of our powder coating stuff back. Got our hood hinges. These are little brackets for the fenders. Some of the grill parts, and then the headlight buckets. So let me get these out of the way here, and I'll show you in the trunk. And we did pull the bumper off of it. We got new front and rear bumpers, so I'm getting the bumper brackets powder coated right now. This one was only held on by like a half a bolt on both sides. They had 1 bolt on each side. We're trying to get the trunk cleaned up, but we got the battery mounted over here in the rear. Originally I was gonna put it up there, but it just wasn't working out. I wanted to put it on that platform, but then the seat angle and stuff, the battery was hitting it, so I just put it all the way back in the corner. I don't like adding holes to a car and having a whole bunch of holes and stuff, which is not necessary. So this tray I made for the car, I made for this battery, and I welded it to the trunk. And then the hold downs, it is 3/8, so it would be legal if you wanted to put a kill switch on here and race this or do anything more with it. So it has a legal size, bigger hold downs, but I just welded it onto the tray. There's no holes through the trunk. So I think this technically would be legal if you got it, you know, try to race this car because it's welded on. It is all 3/8. So if you didn't like this, somebody's like, oh, this is stupid, I don't want a battery in the trunk, you can grind it back out and then you don't have to have a whole bunch of holes to fill. So the battery cables, I'm gonna run through the car because I'm adding this fuse box, or not a fuse box, but this fuse. So this is a mega fuse for the whole car. So I'm gonna run the battery cable through the car. This is gonna be up underneath the dash next to the fuse panel, so there'll be no holes for the battery cables. Then just go through the firewall where I already have a hole in the grommet that was there from the factory. The turn signals at the front bumper were all rusted and the bolts we're stripping out. It's Allen headed, so they're just rounding. So I gotta decide if I'm gonna clean these up or just get new ones. So we do have the black plate here that came with the car, California plates, got both of them. But we're not gonna be using those. This car is actually already registered and insured, so we already have plates for it. Sorry, not sorry, because I think it's gonna go to different states, so it doesn't matter. This reservoir here for the power steering pump, so this pump is off of the dually, so this is a truck style / heavy duty reservoir. The reservoir is not on the pump, but this is too high for the hood that's gonna go on here. So I'm gonna move this, I'm gonna mount this reservoir to either the inner fender or the core support. But for right now, I'm just gonna take it and set it down out of the way. I might modify this reservoir and have the outlet come out the side, but it all depends, but this will probably swing around. But right now, it's all tight, so I can't really swing it. Right now, we'll just let it sit right there. So I bought 2 of these hoods. The first one came damaged so bad in the corners, it's all wadded up, so they sent me another hood. Actually, I didn't buy them. This is a replacement hood for the first one. This is the first one I got. They didn't have packaged too well, and the corners just got mangled. I guess it could be fixed. I mean, anything could be fixed, but if I'm paying full pop for it, there's no sense in me fixing it. So they told me to keep it because it costs more to send it back, so I don't know what to do now. I guess I'm gonna try to sell it, but this is the first hood. So then they shipped me that one. as a replacement of this one, and it got a little bent in the corner too, but it's not as bad. You can see this side turned out, this side was fine. This one here got a little bit, I kind of massaged it, but you can see how it's kind of rounded down right here. I kind of massaged it, try to get it straightened back. I'm gonna try to spend a little more time with it, but it's still kind of got the corner in their packaging. They don't have it packaged too well. And then this fenders, so this one I haven't touched yet. These are new fenders, same deal. And you can see how the corner kind of stops a little shy. It's kind of hard to tell if the door was on here. Door comes right, you know, right here. So it's got this big gap in the corner of the fender. So if you go over to the other side here, I can show you what I did, is that I welded in the corner of the fender here, and I brought it out to kind of follow the body line. So now it's more of an even off the cowling here, comes into the fender. In all reality, this fender needs to be built up a little bit right in here. It kind of gets a good gap down here. Again, we're not bodymen. These are brand new fenders, so this whole front group is brand new. Once we started sanding on the fenders that were on it, they were bad. It looks like somebody went to town with a BB gun or a shotgun or something, had a whole bunch of holes in it. So we're like, man, yeah, we're not dealing with this. So we bought new fenders. The hood, it looks like somebody sat on in the middle of it. Had a big bow. It was a flat hood, and I was worried about having proper air cleaner fitment. So these are really nice cowl hoods. They're really set up because the cowl is actually blocked from the engine bay. So it is actually just air from the cowling. So it is a cold air. It is really, they are really nice hoods. Instead of, if you get like a fiberglass hood with a cowl on it, it's all open. So you're getting engine temperature with your cold air kind of mixes, and this turbulence thing, this is actually 100% separated. So it's a pretty nice deal. So I kind of want to get the front end on here. There's a couple things I had to sand, like there's a little, like a pinch that came on this one, they'll stuck out. You can see over here, it was like this here. It has like this little booger, little piece of metal where it comes together. But if I leave that there, then this front bezel isn't going to fit right. But in all, looks really good. I like it. I mean, there's no bump stops or anything. There's no latch in here to hold the hood, but everything's straight. I can live with it. I mean, it looks nice. It's kind of nice to mock this up with no inner fenders in it, because now we can get a good view. If you look up through the fender here, get an idea of how close the carburetor air cleaner is going to be. So I got plenty of room for an air cleaner on there, and you can see the top of the carburetor, where that rag is. If you envisioned a line, that carburetor with a flat hood would almost be touching the hood. Like I would have no room for an air cleaner, because you can see where it goes up a little bit right here. So if that was a flat hood, I don't think it has that. I think it'd be pretty much close to the top of the carburetor. I maybe get a 1-inch air cleaner on there or something, be choked down. So at least with the cowl, I can go up into the cowl with a nice air cleaner. So I like that. The fitment looks good. Radiator looks good. My cap's not hitting anything. Everything's nice up there. Just took the front end off. We just want to give you a little sneak peek. We need to show you the core support. Got it set up here. This has all been powder coated. The radiator's mounted. We got the fan mounted. I'm not a big fan of the zip ties through the radiator, but that's the option we had. The radiator came with the car. The fan came with the car. So it's close to the water pump pulley and everything, but it's going to work. We got a little bit of the radiator that we're not using. So I'm curious to see how it's going to do. This is a big block, yes, but it is just a stock, pretty much big block. Peanut port, nothing exciting. So we're not making crazy heat. So hopefully this will do the trick. Then we got the training cooler in the front here. You can see how clean it looks. We got all the holes, unnecessary holes welded up. Up here, this is for the hood stop. So we got the holes up here fixed, all this smoothed up. So the passenger door gets used about 100% less than the driver's door. So as you can see, it opens and closes very nicely. So we're gonna take it off, which I probably should have done in the first place to have easier access to the floor to fix it, but being that I have to do the rear part of the floor and we want to paint the jams, I think it'd be easier to take it off. So we're gonna take it off now. So we're gonna take all the bolts out. That's how you take it off. Wow. You ready? This is really heavy. I took the other one off by myself. Guys, got your doors blown off. I can tell you that Fiero's not going to do that though. So this is the floor I was talking about. We poked on it. You see we've got some holes here. It's not very stout. Originally we were planning on maybe just cutting out circles and fixing it, but the more we look at it, it's just too much. We got this replacement panel, but I don't think we're going to use the whole thing. I think we're going to take it a little bit below this bend, which would be here. And we'll just, we'll come straight all the way around here. We'll come up to here, this area, straight. So I'm gonna get to cutting, but I gotta be careful because where the seat belts are and the seat are, you can see there's some spot welds there. There's a reinforcement under the floor. I'm gonna double check. I look under the floor, but I'm gonna cut. I'll make some more cuts, but I'll cut away from it just to see where it's at. It's a messy, very noisy process. The right way to do it is to cut it out, obviously. You don't want to be that guy that takes the floor and be like, done, new floor's installed. Or the guy that halfway cuts it out and then sets the floor over the top of it. So now that I got the seat out of the way, you can see my tunnel. You can see my little dent here. So I tried to raise the tunnel, but the seat winds up being here. I got to knock this down, kind of clean this up a little bit more. And then I had to taper in the tunnel, so you can see where I had to squash it down. I went to the higher part of the original floor to try to get it as big. I tried to expand it. You can see it doesn't, didn't change anything on the gas pedal. It's not wide enough to affect your foot at all. If you remember the floor before, insert picture, camera guy. I don't know what the guy was thinking, but it was a disaster. So this is much nicer than what was there. Front floor here, so I came up to right here, welded the whole seam, and you can see that I just sanded it, blended it. It's a floor, so it's not 100% cherry, even blend. Butt welded it, and then attached it to the side as normal, and then I just welded in a cover over the drain because I don't think I ever remember a time that I've unbolted the drain. The two sheet metal screws, and took that out to drain out. I don't know why that's there. I've never even used it. So I'm gonna do the same with this. I'm gonna weld in a piece of metal there. Obviously they don't drain water very well because the floor still rot away. I noticed as I climbed in here that there is a spot over here that it has a hole, but the floor on this side seems better. So I'll probably just try to weld that and then grind it, or if it's that metal's too bad, I might cut it out and put a piece in there. But this is non-factory for sure. I'm almost 100% that this car never had rear seat belts. These cars normally didn't, but if it did have rear seat belts, the center and the buckle, which the buckle is not on the outside, the buckle is on the inside. Buckle and the center seat belt would share the same attaching point. These things look like they're out of a military plane or something. I don't know what these seat belts are. But they wouldn't be side by side like that. But I think I should probably put seatbelts in here because if my buddy actually keeps his car, falls in love with it or whatever, he's got some kiddos. So it'd be kiddos, wifo, or maybe himo and then wifo.
So after the master mechanic started cutting away at that rear floorboard to get ready for the new floorboard to be installed, both him and I began sanding on the rest of the car and just getting it straight. For the most part, it was in pretty good shape. Other than this super Bondo-ridden quarter panels that I don't know what this guy did or how it looked beforehand, if it was super dented. And we did our aerosol overhaul. It's a little dirty right now, but you can see we got it pretty good and straight for the most part. I feel a majority of the prep work is done for if somebody wanted to take this somewhere to get it painted or if they know how to do body work and paint themselves. We also got some of the front end parts powder coated, like the subframe braces and a couple of the other suspension parts that we'll show here shortly. The firewall looks really good, all nice and painted as well. We made sure to tape up the VIN tag both on the door jamb and on the firewall so we didn't paint over that. We went ahead and got the transmission rebuilt off camera. We added a shift kit to that Turbo 350 and just cleaned it up, went through it. And now that it's made it to our big block, we're installing the engine and transmission, 100% done, finally into the car. And here it is installed, our aerosol overhaul big block install. Man, could this get any cheesier? I think the big block being in this car is really gonna add some value to the car because if I wanna go off this guy that commented on the last video and said, why did you title the video Nova Sleeper? Everybody knows Novas are fast. Well, let me tell you this. Go on Facebook Marketplace, type in Chevy Nova and see how many have a 6-cylinder, inline 6-cylinder in their Novas. They're like all original, the inline 6 with a 195 tire. So yes, that's kind of why this Nova is titled as a sleeper, because I really don't see many street Novas with big blocks in them. A lot of them are just race cars. It's more rare, in my opinion, to see, an LS or a big block in one of these early first-gen Novas. So the master mechanic lost his voice from yelling at me for dropping his ice cream. So he's gonna be pointing as I commentate here. First thing I wanna point out is our nice new wheel bearings right here. Go ahead and spin the rotor, master mechanic. Wow, that does not make any noise anymore. If you heard it before when we spun the wheel, it was horrendous.
Well, before when you spun the wheel, you had to go.
Well, yeah, first that. But second, we had to chisel off the wheel bearings because they were so rusted on here because the person, whoever put it on before, put it on dry and just let it sit outside and rest. You can see we got our flex brake line from the caliper to this bracket. that the master mechanic welded onto the subframe. Looks pretty dang old nice. We're not super concerned, but just something to keep an eye on is the brake line getting close to the spring right there. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get it on the road and see if there's any problem. We have our little tie rod hooked up to our spindle. Here's another part of the suspension that we didn't get it powder coated, we just painted it and cleaned it up. It looks really nice. And you can see how close the rack gets to the oil pan here. Pretty close. It's almost like the master mechanic made this for the car. If he puts light on the back side of it, you can see the paper thin gap that there is in between the oil pan and that there steering rack. And we also adjusted the mounting angle of the steering rack to go underneath the engine mount, as you see right here. So it's gonna be a way better angle to the column rather than if it went above, then you would have to have some sort of U-joint here and it would just be this whole Frankenstein put together thing. We have the fuel line ran up to here. It goes all the way back that we'll show here in a second. But with the header that the master mechanic built for the passenger side, which I might add, looks very nice. You can see here outside of the car in the light. And like we've said before, this car has kind of been put together from parts we had lying around. You know, we had this engine, we had this transmission, we had the suspension that was on the car, and these are kind of leftover exhaust parts as well. This is a 3-inch collector that we didn't use on the Camaro. Since we're doing a dual exhaust on this, a 3-inch dual exhaust would be a little overkill for what's going on here. So he reduced the 3-inch into a 2.5 here. And we got the signature one-off port and polish for this peanut port oval head big block. There you can see all the way through to China through this header. The master mechanic was a little concerned that the header would rub the fuel line, and that is true. So he's gonna have to move it, and he's probably gonna run it across the top right here to get it out of the way. And he's also probably gonna wrap it with some insulator, heat insulator. You can also see the before and after of both the engine mounts and the steering rack mounts before it was painted and after it was painted. They both turned out really good. It was a tight fit getting the engine mounts on there, which is interesting because the engine mounts were welded just like this. The engine was in the car just like this, but it was still a tight fit. It's funny how that works sometimes. But that's how you want it. You're holding your engine in here. So I guess that's how it should be. Got our master cylinder bolted up here. Brand new master cylinder, dual reservoir. The way this car is with how small and close together everything is, we don't think a booster would fit with the big block, which is one of the reasons why we didn't run it. Before we put the engine in, we put the brake line that goes underneath the engine into the car. The master mechanic bent it up. He drilled and tapped in the distribution block on the side of the frame, and he did it with the engine out of the car because it was way easier to access it. The old column was so destroyed in this car, we think it'd be better just to buy a whole new column. And it's definitely a nice aluminum column. Look at that. What's that worth to you?
I know what it cost me. I don't know what it's worth to me.
We just put the original steering wheel back onto it. I don't think we're gonna buy a steering wheel for this car. We're just gonna use this original steering wheel. It kind of sucks that it didn't come with the horn center ring. 90% of our cars, no, actually no. 99% of our cars don't even have a horn. So what the master mechanic needs to do next before we can fully put the column in is he needs to weld, obviously not this whole entire block, he's gonna cut it up in some sort of way, but he needs to weld this onto the firewall, and that's what supports the bottom of the column. While the column is unbolted and out of the way, it's a little easier to show you the shifter that the master mechanic mounted in here. This was also a shifter that we had lying around out of the red car that my aunt didn't want. It was in the car when we drove it to her and gave it to her, but she ended up changing it to something else and she sent this back to us. The guy that previously had the car did this little notch on the seat to clear the shifter, so it worked out good putting the shifter here on the floor. And once the carpet's in here, you won't even see the little plate on the bottom. All you're gonna see is the little stand that sticks up. How do you like that mount?
It's a very nice mount. First, second, third, neutral, reverse, park.
Okay. This quarter isn't done yet. We need to do a little bit more prepping and painting to it. Just this car being all one color looks so much better. The only thing we haven't done anything to yet is the back section here with the trunk. This is kind of what we took the rest of the car down to. Had a little bit of bare metal. Some of the high spots that started showing. We have a little hammer and a dolly. This is our only body tool that the master mechanic found in a car.
That is true. I did find this. I think both of these in a car.
Trying to sand off the majority of the Bondo and just make it smooth and straight. It's a way better base for somebody that's gonna be getting this car. It's a way better starting point than what we started with. It's way better that we fixed the rusted up floors in this car. And here's the rear section that the master mechanic was cutting out earlier. It's kind of hard to see with the seat, but you can just tell that it is installed. It is not rusty anymore. We'll show it more on the interior side when we pull these seats out of here to put the carpet in, and maybe a little bit of sound deadening as well, because we have some left over from the orange Nova. So we got both of the doors back on and adjusted. It's kind of hard to tell right now because we're on the rack, and these cars flex so easily because of the way they're designed. What do you think of them?
They're really nice. When the car's on the ground and all the weight's on it, they open and close really nice, but now it's kind of drooping a little bit, especially with the weight of the engine in the front. So once we get on the ground, yeah, they're adjusted and they work really nice.
Got the car raised up here. You can see a nice powder coated transmission cross member bolted in here, 100% done. On this side, you see the fuel line that is ran all the way down the car. So there is no question that the fuel system will be 100% new, because the gas tank, if I can even show it on camera, was absolutely rusted out on the inside, and I don't know what kind of smell was coming out of that gas tank.
It's like varnish. The gas has been there so long, it was like,
It smelled like lacquer thinner.
yeah, it was bad. I threw it away, so I can't show you. I took the sender out because it normally has a sock on the bottom of it, and I wanted to take the sock off. I was gonna put an external filter on it, and it was so rusted. I'm like, great. And I looked in the tank, and it was trash.
So because we have so much leftover tubing from doing the cage in the Camaro, the master mechanic thought it'd be a good idea to bend some bars and put in some subframe connectors himself. So something that's a little unique to the ones that we put in here compared to something you would buy, an aftermarket subframe connector, is this is pretty much 100% straight to the subframe unibody right here. And then it kicks at an angle and then kicks back straight to where the leaf spring bolts in. Rather than just being a straight bar from where the leaf spring mounts in the front, going all the way to the unibody up there, you know, it kind of has some symmetry to it. I really like the look of it. And he put in this little gusset bar to tie it into the body. So it's always nice to make use of the tools you have lying around. Don't just use it for one occasion and one occasion only. You can always make use of what you got. And we just did a little bit of welding on the unibody to the floor as well. Because factory, that's not welded. So we did it on both sides. On this side and then the little side over here. And when looking underneath the car, you can see, yes, indeed, we actually got the tunnel to fit 100%. We didn't just set the tunnel over what was previously there. Same with the floor. We didn't just set the floor over the rusty floor and just call it a day. We cut it out and welded in the new floor all around, even drilled out holes and did spot welds all across the rocker right here. He also did that here on the subframe connector. He welded it to the floor, so there was none of that. When you get in the back seat and you put your feet on the floor, it goes ding, ding, ding. Also when it's running, because it's so close together, it could rattle. And here's just showing some fitment of the rear floor that was welded in as well. You can see it wasn't just set right on top, it is fully welded in. We even went around the factory unibody, just like it looks on this side. Around the factory unibody, just like that. That's the progress we've made. The engine and tranny is set in there. Now we got to get it running. So come on back for the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, watch the next video. I'll see you guys.